President Trump's mass deportation plan relies on cooperation from local law enforcement. Colorado law limits that. It's tension that will be tested in court. Republican leaders now plan to sue the Democratic governor and attorney general after one of their sheriff's deputies was sued for helping ICE capture a college student after a routine traffic stop. Our Angeline McCall has been following this case all along, and Angeline, the state went after this deputy, trying to send a message that Colorado law on immigration must be followed. This countersuit also sends a message.
Yeah, a different one, Kyle. Just this morning, commissioners voted to approve filing that counter lawsuit. The Mesa County attorney called the original lawsuit just politically motivated litigation, saying the law used to sue is vague with unconstitutional restrictions. Now, just to back this up, this all stems from a June 5th traffic stop when Mesa County Deputy Alexander Swink pulled over 19-year-old Utah student Caroline Diaz-Gonçalves, who is originally from Brazil. She got off with a traffic warning, but we know that deputy shared her personal information in a group chat that included federal agents, who in turn ended up detaining her. Weiser filed a lawsuit against Swink using Senate Bill 276 for the first time in litigation that limits law enforcement from sharing certain immigration information. Now Mesa County is challenging whether that law is legal.
Authorizing this lawsuit, you will be reaffirming Mesa County's unwavering commitment to the rule of law. In contrast to the Attorney General, who too often has wielded statute as a political weapon rather than a tool for justice.
And to single out Mesa County is absurd. And this is for political gain, and let's take them to court.
The lawsuit will seek a judgment to clarify what the rights and obligations are for employees, and will ask the judge to temporarily stop the state from enforcing this law. Kyle?
I mean, in a way, Angeline, this is why courts exist, right? There's disagreement about the way that the law should be implemented. This is clearly something that every law enforcement officer in Colorado is interested in, and now we're going to get some clarity from the courts.
Well, this is also the first time that Senate Bill 276 that also changed, Article 74. This is the first time it's being used, so this is really its first chance at either saying in court, right, that we uphold the law, or also going back to the drawing board.
Angeline McCall, thank you. The Trump administration is taking another stab at targeting so-called sanctuary jurisdictions. Their original list of those places was so full of obvious errors that they pulled it down. Now the administration is back out with a new list of cities and states that could lose federal funding. No surprise, Denver and Colorado are on the list. Trump's Department of Justice put together the list with orders to pressure those cities and states to help work on federal immigration enforcement. The DOJ's report lists 12 states, the District of Columbia, and nearly 24 cities and counties. The DOJ is already suing Denver and Colorado over state and local laws that limit law enforcement cooperation with ICE. Now, it's not just a refusal to have local cops do federal immigration work that is landing places on this naughty list. The DOJ says the list also includes jurisdictions that allow immigrants to access benefits or even just have a local office to assist immigrants. Several sources at the state capitol tell us that the governor is expected to announce a special legislative session tomorrow. That is not a surprise. Colorado's budget is $1 billion out of whack due to the Republican budget passed by Congress. The state must have a balanced budget, so cuts are going to be needed. Our politics guy, Marshall Zellinger, is along now with details. And Marshall, folks will recall when the governor announced a special session 2 years ago, he did one of his hokey stunts. That time he broke some glass with a baseball bat, like break in case of emergency. So I just need to know, are your sources telling you whether the governor has a new cringy stunt planned for tomorrow?
They did not say how they expect it to be announced. And the governor's team was mum on the topic of special session altogether when I asked. This is the third straight year of what it would be called an extraordinary session, so perhaps it needs a new name if it's going to be normal. This one would be about cutting or finding $1 billion. Earlier today, the governor's budget director gave a briefing to the Joint Budget Committee. Those are the 6 lawmakers who do the major budget work. He talked about asking state departments to look at cuts they were expecting to make next year and pick which ones can be cut this year. Congressional Republicans in D.C. made tax policy changes that will impact how much revenue Colorado gets from taxpayers and corporations. State lawmakers will likely try to close some loopholes so those taxpayers and corporations will not see the same drop in their state taxes that they will on their federal taxes. So that's a way of keeping revenue coming into the state of Colorado. The rest of the $1 billion shortfall will have to come from cuts or dipping into the state's piggy bank, or both. The governor has not signed off on a call for a special session and is still weighing options, a spokesperson just told me. I don't have a potential date yet if and when it's called, but previously the rumors of a special session, Kyle, were the week of August 18th.
So hold on now. If he really is just still considering it now tonight, it's 6:05 p.m. That feels like it's awful late. Like if they're going to announce it tomorrow, I would bet that they actually have a pretty good plan in place.
Even during the JBC meeting this morning, the state's budget director kept saying all options are on the table. If they're still considering all options, let me just say this. We've done stories in the past about Denver public school buildings that don't have air conditioning. If this is going to happen in August, I've been in that building twice last week. It is 150 degrees, it feels like, inside a no air conditioning Capitol building. So it takes 3 days to pass legislation. 3 days, get out.
Yeah, in and out. All right, we'll be watching tomorrow. Marshall, thank you. More than 200 state laws go into effect this week. It's the default date for bills that legislators worked on this year. There are going to be sweeping changes to public safety law, energy codes, and consumer protection. There's a new prohibition on price gouging. It would make it illegal for companies to raise prices more than 10% during a declared disaster. Another new law would set up a system for people to voluntarily be added to a do not sell registry at gun stores. The idea behind that is to prevent suicides, but the program first has to raise outside funding before it can be implemented. It's also the first time that legislators have tried to address pornographic material created by AI. This year, they made it easier to sue over artificially created images. Republican leaders in a few counties are telling the state that some of these new laws are unfunded mandates, so they're just going to ignore them. They're going to treat them as optional. Mesa County sent a letter to legislative leaders and the governor calling on them to make sure that bills are coupled with some kind of state funding to enforce them. Mesa County estimates it would cost them up to $700,000 a year to comply with 5 new recent laws. Those laws require the county to implement new wildfire resiliency codes, new energy standards, update their IT systems, do more to track and report law enforcement interactions. Now, many of those bills were bipartisan. They were approved by the very Republicans who represent Mesa and Garfield counties, but county commissioners say the new laws will have a major impact on their county budgets. We heard from the governor's office on this, who said that the funding is based on analysis from nonpartisan staff at the Capitol, and they're open to suggestions on how to reduce costs. An existential issue has brought together Colorado's Democrats and Republicans in Congress: water and how much of it our state can get. A tornado warning last night took me down a bit of a rabbit hole where I found a town that once was on the Eastern Plains. And you can get a free ticket at DIA. Destination? The DMV. Enjoy the trip. Next. Colorado's entire congressional delegation, the Republicans and the Democrats, who can't agree between themselves on where to go out for dinner, are agreeing that the Trump administration should release $140 million for Colorado River water projects. The federal funding for 17 projects was approved in January. Then President Trump froze that funding. In a letter to the administration, the legislators from Colorado say they've only got funding for 2 of those projects so far, projects focused on managing the drought affecting the Colorado River Basin. They want the Trump administration to turn loose the rest of that funding so that the state can better prepare for unpredictable water levels. Well, here's an odd new wrinkle in Colorado's wolf drama. Wildlife officers say they can't go in and kill a problematic wolf because it's right next to a wildfire. CPW says an uncollared wolf in Rio Blanco County has killed 3 sheep. That gets that wolf on the chronic depredation list, which means they're going to Old Yeller the thing. This is not one of the wolves that the agency released on the Western Slope as part of the reintroduction program approved by voters. The CPW says normally they'd go in and they'd whack the wolf, but that area is under evacuation because of the elk fire right now. That fire's burned more than 7,700 acres in the Oak Ridge area east of Meeker. No containment on that fire. That's a new one, Chris Bianchi. They want to go in and kill the wolf that's got a taste for sheep, but it's too close to the fire.
I was going to say, that's the first time I've ever heard of anything like that. That's bizarre.
Right.
By the way, I'm also really looking forward to the tornado warning story from Los Alamos.
We were chatting up about this last night, and then I went down a 2-hour rabbit hole on the internet to bring us the story that we got coming up.
I can't wait to hear that. I'm pumped to hear all about that. In the meantime, for us now, it's really hot outside, right? A lot of you know that. And a lot of our focus when it gets really hot, right? How hot is it? But the focus should also be on low temperatures. Let me explain why. Our average summertime low temperature in Denver, about 55 to 60 degrees. So that means our temperatures on average are below 70 degrees for 8 to 10 hours while we sleep. So it's pretty comfortable, right? While we sleep. Our forecast low temperatures, including tonight, 65 to 70 degrees, which means we're below 70 degrees for only really an hour or two. And that makes all the difference between needing air conditioning and not. So temperatures mostly above room temperature this week, and those temperatures at night are mostly, honestly, above 75 degrees, and so it's hard to cool off without air conditioning. That is why I tend to focus more on low temperatures with these sorts of events rather than the high temperature. That said, our high temperature, 98 for us in Denver today. It was cooking, and we're about 95, 96 right now. Heat advisory for Thursday for the entire I-25 corridor between 10 a.m. and 7 p.m. But again, do not overlook those low temperatures. Take a look at this. Again, weather impact alert for Thursday. The reason we went ahead and called that, again, notice that 67. That is just as impactful. Most of us, we're smart people, right? Most of us are smart enough that when it's 99 degrees, you don't want to be outside. Nobody wants to be outside when it's 99 degrees, but the thing that might impact you more is that overnight low dropping down to 67. We cool off and finally get rid of those really hot temperatures this weekend with the afternoon storms. Final thing I want to leave you with, we are seeing a lot of smoke. This is from the Elk and the Lee fires across the western slope.
The National Weather Service put out a tornado warning last night for a little-known town on the far southeastern plains, Nineview, Colorado. Population 0. Got us curious. A town with no people. Of course, there are places like that all over Colorado. Map dots that indicate spots that once were mining towns or prairie post offices, and today are just places where people used to live. Often forgotten, until someone has some occasion to remember. So now, for a moment, let's remember Nineview, Colorado. Nineview, Colorado. Population 0. Dusty intersection on the line between Bent and Los Animas counties, almost an hour's drive to anywhere. When a local historian stopped by 20 years ago, the one house left standing already looked like it was history. His snapshots show land unchanged from when the first settler's daughter fell in love with that view from their homestead, Nina's view. More ranch families came, the Coverdells, Stows, Baileys, the Hinmans, enough for a one-room schoolhouse, and for a few decades, a post office. A peaceful place, with the exception of one day in 1943, when a lost Army plane out of Pueblo mistook Nineview for a practice range, unleashing bombs and machine gun fire on rangeland outside town. The cattle stampeded. A cowboy ran home to grab his rifle, and the storekeeper shouted, "They're bombing hell out of us!" A brief moment of excitement in the brief history of a place that was Nineview, Colorado. Here's one for you tonight. For everybody complaining about the parade of expired vehicle tags in Colorado, DIA is all over this problem. Hey, a reminder, you can catch Next streaming each night, 6 p.m. on 9 News Plus, and Next is now a podcast for your ear holes. Warning to everybody driving around with expired plates, don't park at the airport, because when you get back, a fine might be waiting for you. In a state where expired tags often seem ignored, Mark Salinger found Crackdown Central.
Flight status, check. Boarding pass, check. Suitcases, check. But did you remember to pay for your car registration? The last thing you're probably thinking about when you pull up to the airport is whether your license plate could get you a fine while you're gone. But while you travel, these stickers could cost you. You see, all these parked cars sitting here are basically just waiting for a parking attendant or police officer to drive by. 6,858 tickets have been passed out to parked cars here at the airport, all for expired plates. $95 a piece. The tickets here don't come from police. They're issued by the airport's Parking and Transportation Department. All the money you pay in fines still goes back to the city of Denver. And these fines are nothing new. Last year, the airport issued 11,646 tickets for expired plates. It's almost 1,000 a month. That's more than Denver police usually issues during enhanced enforcement periods, where they actually focus on expired plates. Back here in the city, the numbers are even higher. More than 38,000 tickets issued to cars with expired plates parked on city streets already this year. So don't park your car at the airport, or really anywhere, if your registration isn't up to date. You might think that no one is policing expired plates, but 45,000 people here in the city as well as the airport have found out the hard way that they are. So let's help visualize this. If you can think of the economy lots at the airport, each the west and the east can fit about 4,000 cars apiece, maybe a little bit more. Add all of those cars together in both of the economy lots. That's how many cars in total will have received tickets for expired plates by the end of this month, Kyle.
That's really interesting. Well, there's the one place that you don't want to go. How'd you get tipped off on this?
Well, my wife also found the other place that you don't want to go, which is parking on pretty much any city street in Denver. She had expired tags, our bad. Got 2 tickets 2 days in a row. She got a ticket the first day, paid it, didn't come in, overnight, and then got a ticket the next day. So we said, oh, they must be cracking down on these things.
Yeah. They forgive that second ticket?
They did.
Okay.
So at least we're moving in the right direction there.
Kelly, pay your taxes and fees. All right, Mark.
We're working on it.
Thank you. This program, Next, is now 9 years old. Fitting milestone given our TV home on 9 News. An unlikely milestone, actually, given that 9 years ago, when we first put a different kind of newscast on the air here, more than half the existing viewers stopped watching. Out the door they went. Now, some presumably came back, and more of you came along, looking for a new way to talk about the news each night. A less disconnected approach, we hope. Less about the litany of tragedy that often dominates local TV news. The car crashes, the house fires, the random crime. Something that's more about the reality of life in Colorado, right? Our hardest to solve issues, the fascinating people who are trying different approaches to problem solving, and opportunities to not just watch, but to actively be a part of making an impact in Colorado. Because you've told us, you live here, you care. You don't just want to turn on the local news and gawk at the worst things to happen to your neighbors today. You and we want to be part of improving the place that we call home in a real, tangible way. Whether that's through your weekly nonprofit micro-giving campaigns, they have now raised $15 million for causes across Colorado, or standing with us when we stand up to politicians who play games with your money or your common sense. They quite often will back down. We're still here after 9 years for one simple reason. Because you are still here after 9 years. We know there's work left to do, and our next team is excited to do it with your help. We are back with your feedback, delivered by our summer intern Grant, fellow Ithaca College bomber. Go Bombers! Feedback's next. Feedback tonight from Sarah, who wrote in with congratulations on our 9 years on the air. Sarah wrote that she is a bit surprised, saying different isn't always supported by management. I've tried to make this clear over the years, Sarah. This show only works because the folks in charge around here and at our parent company are willing to stand behind it, especially when we tick off powerful people. But I appreciate you noting that. Felton writes in tonight, Kyle, you should give consideration to your appearance. Pale, almost white skin, very light jacket, pale beard, white hairs, appearance. My goodness, Felton, you make me sound like the Crypt Keeper.